stand for the pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call.
Director Diamond is not here? No. Okay. Director Hetherington? Here. Director Odette?
Here.
Director Rolfe?
Here.
Director Stevens?
Here.
All present.
Did you say all present?
Well, off here.
Supposedly volume in third. Okay, so, modification of the agenda, oh, I'm sorry, special orders of business. Oh, yes, sorry.
Special orders of business, anybody? No? Okay. Modification of the agenda, because we haven't heard back from the FPPC regarding Director Diamond's participation in the hangar policy or the Fly Quiet program, we will move that to August.
9 and 10.
Sorry?
Item 9 and 10.
Yes, items 9 and 10. Okay, now is the time to, for public comment on anything that's not on the agenda for tonight. Is there any public comments? Oh, please.
Is there a button?
Yes.
Yeah.
No button there, you just
Oh, not on the,
Okay, now just talk. Well, Colin Robinson, I'm a Truckee resident, homeowner, father of two. One of them's here. I live in the neighborhood adjacent to the Martis Valley Estates open space and Ponderosa Golf Course. I'm a big fan of the airport. Both my daughters love playing at the park. We're going there immediately after this. And my oldest, who's not here today, participated in the Mission to Mars program through the Park District, and she was a huge fan and can't wait to come back and do some more flying. So she's a huge fan. I'm here today on behalf of Rocker Memorial Skate Park. It's a volunteer nonprofit group that has been working for the last 10 years to build an expansion skate park in Truckee, right down the street in the regional park. Hopefully you're already somewhat familiar with us. We've been around for quite a while, and we've had booths up at the Truckee Air Show for the last several years as well too. So lots of kids, we give away a lot of stuff, fairly popular. We're partnered with the Park District, who provided the land grant, and the town of Truckee, who approved our plans in June of last year, of 2022. This year, we'll be applying to the TTAD agency partnership, and I wanted to take this opportunity to first congratulate you on having such an excellent program, and second, congratulate you on the strategic plan initiatives that will be presented later in this meeting as well. I think they serve our community well, and I think Rocker Memorial Skate Park is uniquely positioned to help you achieve some of those goals. Specifically, we're very excited about areas 3 and 4 related to community goals, environmental impact, and STEAM education. I have with me today one of the awards that was created by the local Truckee High School Gone Boarding program. This is a STEAM program based out of the Truckee High School that not only designed, built, and engineered awards for an event that we hold up on Donner Summit. And we're very excited about this program. We're not only sponsors of their program for materials and stuff like that and sponsorships of students, but also working with some of our big sponsors like Jones to actually get them in contact with some of the mechanical engineers that work for some of those different board sports companies as well too. Now, the reason why I point that out is obviously STEAM education is a big strategic initiative for the airport district, and I wanted to highlight our involvement with that in the community. With TTAD support, we can build a generational asset down the street that significantly reduces the vehicle miles traveled for North Lake Tahoe residents to use similar facilities in Reno and Sacramento, dramatically improves the drainage and landscaping of the land, which is adjacent to the wetlands reclamation project completed by the Truckee River Watershed Council with TTAD support, provides beginner, intermediate, and expert terrain options, increasing participation in the community, and provides a safe, interactive social space for all ages and generations. It also, of course, complements other world-class facilities that you've supported, such as the bike park right down the street as well, too. So I want to take this opportunity to introduce myself again, Colin Robinson. I'm the volunteer director. I've been working with the Park District and Rocker for the last 8 years. I've got thousands of hours invested, and we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to the approval point, having, I'm sure, gone through stuff with the town, CEQA, mitigated negative declarations, and the whole spiel to get to the approval process. It's been a lot of work. So we have an incredible opportunity that supports not only your initiatives, but provides back to the community. And I wanted to make sure I gave the opportunity. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to present again later and give the full rundown, but I wanted to come and say hi and introduce myself.
Great. Thank you, Colin.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, is there any other public comment? All right. I can't find my printout of Speak Your Piece, and I can't read the wall, so everybody just be nice to each other. Just respectful, listen. We all know what we're doing here.
Thank you.
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Enjoy the bar.
Yes, we will.
Okay. Consent agenda. Is there any, anybody have a motion?
Oh, public comment.
Pub-
I would move that we approve the consent agenda, 1 through 6.
Second.
Is there any public comment? Okay.
Director Diamond is absent. Director Hetherington.
Yes.
Director Odette.
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Moving on to action items. Next we have item number 7, Truckee Tahoe Airport District Strategic Plan.
And we have
Shauna
a
Doherty.
presentation from Agnew Beck, Shauna Doherty.
Well, good evening, directors and public who are listening. It's wonderful to be here, and after a year of working together. As mentioned, I'm Shauna Doherty. I'm a senior manager with Agnew Beck, and I'm here with my colleague Allison Schwedner to present to you the draft strategic plan. And for those that are listening, it's posted on the website. Very exciting for me to hear the last speaker reference our strategic plan already and how what they're talking about fits into our goals. So that's awesome already to see that. So a little bit of what I'm doing here tonight. You've all seen the draft strategic plan. We've been working together intensely for the last year. So I'm going to just very high level go over the strategic plan, and I'm also just going to remind you, do a quick run through of where, how we got to today. So a little bit, a visual to keep in your mind is a funnel. So remember back last fall, we started out really, really wide with just informal conversations. Ellen and I called you each up, chatted with you, had a conversation around what do you want to get out of this? What are some of the challenges at the district, challenges within the board? And do you want to move forward with the strategic plan? And that was our initial conversation. We got the green light to continue moving forward, and we started this whole process in January. So really, I would say this whole process that we're going to report out on today started with that conversation. Then we did sort of what we call as an environmental scan. We looked at all sorts of information related to where the district is today. Included in that was another 2 more rounds of conversations with each of you, interviewing every single staff member, looking at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then we've had 3 workshops. And we ironed out, your first set of values. We created a new vision statement, guiding principles, and then went into the strategic areas and defined sort of what our priorities are. We're not done yet. Once this plan is done, in the attachment A, there's a work plan that is a tool to use for ongoing implementation and tracking progress towards those goals. Next slide. And this is what you said when we first interviewed. What do you want to get out of this process? We want to create priorities for the next 3 to 5 years. We want a collective direction, both internally and externally. We want a tool for the board and the staff that works for today's work, but also when we leave, it's enduring for the next set of leaders. We want it to be a plan that defines not only what we do, but what we're not going to do. We want better staff and board alignment. We want to create a sense of team, and then other things. Again, this was part of our initial, just as a reminder, a summary of, we were testing the waters. And, do you even want to move forward? And the answer was yes. Agreement that you wanted to use that framework that was in the eons and the budget framework, that you had agreement that the status quo wasn't working. And so you would like to see that within this time together that shifts. And then we want to practice what it likes to work as a highly functioning board. This is the framework that we agreed to use, and that is what you see throughout the strategic plan. A goal, to go back to that framework, is that you start to see consistency coming out amongst all of your documents. Right now, so your budget uses that framework, now your strategic plan uses that framework, and hopefully moving forward, when you get staff reports, the framework will start to be used again. And then when you get new studies, just so that as you go out in the circle and try to engage and bring more people into your work, they understand where all these studies and this information fits in. So this is a great framework for that work moving forward. This is a summary. I just wanted to do a check back with what you said. We asked the question, what needs to be in the strategic plan for you to feel comfortable approving it? And this is a summary of those interviews, and we use the framework again. So on the operational side, you said, focus on economic vitality. I want to see something about the land swap, runways, facilities, pilots, board relations. We want a strategic plan with goals. How do we spend our money? And creating a reserve policy. Economic area, criteria behind, we want to define a criteria for, this is mostly about the community giving, invest in the airport. So there's I'm not going to read all of it. Natural offset airport impacts. It's not at this area, was stated that it was, important, but it wasn't as critical some of the other areas. And collaboration, meaning you don't need to be the lead on all of this, but you want to join in efforts that are happening in the region. Social, we want to make sure that we're really focusing on the community give back and reducing our risk to neighbors. So it feels like in reviewing all of that, and I just wanted to make the point that dozens of conversation, hours of meetings, lots of feedback, lots of messy notes, and that we did our best to digest all of that and put it through the sausage maker. And what you have before you is our best effort at looking for points along the way where there was consensus. Is it perfect? No, but it's that statement, progress, not perfection. And it feels like we've made some progress from when we all started talking last fall. What we wanted to include in the final plan, that you all agreed that, these things, vision, mission, guiding principles, and then a strategic framework. Not included is going to be some of these detailed tactics, and those will come out of more of your studies. Next slide. Again, we talked a little bit about roles. It feels that with a new GM coming on, that was a lot of the conversation around sort of what is the board's role, what is staff role, where do we come together, where do we divide up and do what we're supposed to do on our own lanes. So we talked a lot about that, and that's a little bit where that word for the cover comes from, alignment. A little bit comes from clarification of roles. Remember, we did so embedded in the roots of this plan are the conversations we had about these foundational topics. It looks like it's just a simple, graphically interesting strategic plan. In fact, the deeper conversations were had and are infused in the priority making. Next slide. So as a reminder, these are the inputs we use to define this plan, guiding documents, staff, and then examples from other airports and special districts. All our messiness, lots of messiness, lots of messiness, and then the dumb stuff that we made you do. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, if you go back, so now what I'm gonna do so this group has, knows this plan, but for those who are listening in, or if this is new to, I just wanted to pause and talk a little bit about this plan. So the cover shot, I was saying to Teresa in the beginning, one of the pieces of feedback, again, all the feedback inform this plan. And one of the feedback that we've heard for not just in this process, but in my work with the airport for years, is the district represents the whole region. The physical airport is right here, but we serve and are responsible for services throughout the district, including North Lake Tahoe. So we wanted to pick a photo as if you're looking out the portal of a plane and you're seeing Lake Tahoe. Flight path for alignment is just a name that sort of we felt encompasses. You're not done yet, but you're sort of taking off, and the goal is to create alignment with each other on this board, alignment with staff, alignment with the community, in order to make the most streamlined path forward. Next. So this is where we spent a lot of our work, as you know. When we came in, staff had one set of values that they've operated on, and you sort of each individually had your own set of values. Okay, so that's how far we've come. The district now has one set of core values, and the hope is that as you move forward and staff moves forward, that you start to see the use, these values come to life, and they get woven into all of how you support the culture at the board level and at the staff level, and it communicates out to the larger community. The vision, as you remember, took us a lot of time. You didn't have a vision statement before. The mission was there. We kept that. Core values, again, that was based on you all doing brainstorming and then asking the staff. So, I don't know, 40 people chiming in to get those consensus around those words. And then guiding principles is just an expansion on the core values. Overview, again, the airport, you all have many plans, and some of the questions that came up when we interviewed staff was, I don't really understand the difference between sort of like a master plan versus this strategic plan and all these different plans we're doing. It just seems like we plan. And so we really wanted to talk a little bit and demonstrate how these plans nest together and inform each other, and the timeline for each of them. So you have your infrastructure investment plan that's a longer horizon. Of course, greenhouse gas reduction plan is longer. Master plan is about 10 years, and then strategic plan is 3, and budget is every year. And they all should start to look the same and also be referencing each other. This is that structure that I talked about, and this is the way we've organized the strategic plan. And again, hopefully we start to see that moving forward. We spent a bunch, really underneath these strategic focus areas are the main goals. So the main goals are to operate a fiscally responsible district and contribute measurable community investment to the region. So what's critical there is the order of things, right? So we thought that was a very thoughtful decision. Operate fiscally responsible district and then contribute. Right, so there's just nuances in there that had to do with those foundational questions. Operational efficiency, big area. So effectively and safely operate the district. Be a good neighbor and a community partner. That word partner hasn't been in your materials, so now it's in there. So now the shift is partnering for community outcomes. You're not in charge of all community outcomes. The shift in the strategic plan is you are here running an airport, and there's all these great initiatives happening for community benefit and to be involved in it, but you don't have to be the lead on it. And then the natural resource conservation, same thing, is that there's a commitment, and then to practice acting with your operations to move towards those goals. I'm going to not spend a lot of time on these, but I was sensitive to the fact there might be people in the audience or listening who don't know this plan really well. So the way it's organized is we have our focus areas, like I just described. And then the goals are driving towards that, that objective up top, and then the strategies down the right side. And the hope is that whether you guys do it quarterly or annually or however you do, that staff will report back on how they're moving forward in each of these strategy areas. So a couple of things I wanted to point out, because we got some questions, and I'm not going to touch on all of them, but practicing fiscally responsive and inclusive budgeting. That was having to do with a process that you started last year, which is that you're trying to make your financial tools and management easier to understand for people. So remember the packet that was shared with you around, you have your back end detail and then your front end sort of inviting people in to understand sort of where does the money go and how do you spend it, but not having to have a CEO or accounting background to be able to understand that. So the word prioritize in 1B, I just want to point that out, that was an important thing in our process, so that you were prioritizing investment in the airport and safety infrastructure and operations on both airside and landside, tracking your community and economic and environmental investments and the results. And that, remember, is not just counting the grants that you give, but also starting to track the in-kind donation, so you have a better picture of the community benefit that's coming from the district. And then this just goes, the community investment strategy is what you're already doing. Next. So the next one is operational efficiency. So maintain. So the key word, remember that we were very thoughtful about picking these words. Maintain. It doesn't say grow. It doesn't say expand. It says maintain, right? So maintain airside infrastructure. And then we chose a verb when we felt that there was an area of improvement. We wanted to improve operational efficiencies. 2A, if you go back, Lauren, I just want to point out, has a lot of work in it. I think it's one of your items on the agenda today, which is this whole saving for a rainy day shift that's happening, which is what do we do today to start financially managing our resources for the future of the existing airport and taking care of what we have. That was like the summary of it. Just what do we do to manage our resources to take care of what we have today? So this was all about investing in our team and knowing that critical to meeting all those other goals is having strong staff that want to be here for a long time, and a strong board. So continuing the work of board trainings, board policies, investing in staff team, and then some, like I talked about earlier, clarification of roles. Some things are separate and some things are together. And then the rest is just about policies, incentives around safety and community impacts. Area 3 is social responsibility, really about the community benefits, community outcomes. Communication is key to all the work that you're already doing, but now we put it somewhere. So a lot of what you do is communicating in order to be a good neighbor, and so that's listening and then responding with what we can and cannot do. Key word there for 3B is collaborate. So it doesn't say the airport will deliver community benefits. It says the airport will collaborate to deliver district and community benefits. So there's a series of things that you're already doing, but that the mindset is, hey, is somebody else already doing this and doing it better? Let's see what they're doing and join forces with them. Next. So again, recognizing expanding your current incentive programs and new community. This is around pilots, specific to pilots, and then align your community investments with district goals. Last area, and then I'm almost done here, is natural resource conservation. So you always have had sort of this with your sustainability efforts is to achieve in 2045 carbon neutrality. It's an ambitious goal. But you're working with again, back to the collaboration, you're working with Climate Transformation Alliance, and you're one of the founding partners of that. We're focusing on electricity, natural areas, wildfire, and then the aviation fuel shift. And then this, you already know, it's too detailed to put up on the screen, but it's just a tool. We will be sending this to staff in a Word version so they can just update it and make it a tool that you all use however you like. And the last slide is, today is a presentation of the draft. I believe that there's some comments that have come in, and then the next step is that we would take those comments, make some updates, and then it would be presented to you, I guess, at the next meeting for final approval or however you decide. So thank you very much and great work, everyone. It's been a pleasure working with you. Any clarifying questions?
Thank you, Shauna.
Yeah.
I'm sure we do have clarifying
Okay.
questions. Who would like to go first?
I don't have any questions. I was there.
Yeah, you were. Rick?
Nope.
Nope. Mary?
Well, I have some questions and comments and things that I think should have been included that weren't. This is the first time, that we're seeing the whole thing. We participated, and I'd like it to stay as a draft for now so that we can take public comment about it and make adjustments. I know some editing is still going on. And so I don't know, do we want to go through each piece that I have a comment on, or is everybody else just ready to approve it? Because then I don't even have to bother. It's on as an action item.
Well, but I don't think we're going to approve it tonight. I'd like David to be here.
Okay. Okay.
Have you already submitted some comments to Shauna, or
No,
this is the
because
first time?
this is the first time I've, seen it. I mean, I got it, last week?
Yeah.
And then I had other life things happening. So, I sat down with Rob yesterday and went through parts of it.
Okay.
And so I don't know how best to do it. Do we ask questions,
I think
clarifications?
I think that you have the floor.
Okay. So I was thinking that in terms of the letter, should be from all of us as compared to just from you. Just because we all participated, we should all sign on, it's our plan. That's one thought. The other thing in there, so that was one thought. In terms of the about, it's very different than what we had seen before. And things that I think would be very valuable in here would be
Can we throw up the slide of that, Lauren?
You're going to have to pull up the actual plan. Yeah.
yeah, and it's in the, on our page. But the previous about, because, what I do is I go back to the last version that we all marked up at the time. And one of the things that I think would be very valuable in here is to somewhat show the constraints that we work under. We have the FAA grant assurances that we have to work under. It's a big gorilla, and it's not really defined in here. That the Airport Act, the California Airport Act, is one of the things that, and so the clarity of when we make decisions, we are limited to some extent by these other rules, California's laws. And I think that would be very valuable in terms of education. This is a public document. Like, we can't just make decisions. We have constraints upon us.
That's a good point. I don't think the public generally
That
knows
would be
that we
easy
can't
to
say
add.
no. Anyone can fly in any time, and we can't do anything about it.
Right, because of the grant assurances, right. And so that, I think some clarity in this. And, and what it had last read was Truck is managed by the airport district. And again, it's a regulatory thing, is that those are the guiding and regulatory criteria. We are a district that runs an airport. So it's managed by the district. It's managed by the board of 5 elected. I think we have that No, we don't. That it's 5 elected.
It's in
And-
there somewhere, I saw it.
Well,
Yeah,
under
it's the
the
next
about.
page.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the old version of about to this version of about, and I'm just trying to get that clarity. And then we had a comment about, because we're under the California Airport District Act, the purpose of that part, I think, has some language that would be valuable to include. And this is where we had a discussion, and I go back and forth, and I've talked to, who remembers? I asked you if you remembered. You know, the district's, what it said was the district's primary responsibility is to provide safe and efficient aviation facilities and services. And here you talk about those services, you know, emergency, fire. And as a California special district, the airport has an express mandate to provide benefits to its community. Well, the Airport Act says, and to distribute the cost uniformly among all who benefit. But, you know, some clarity in that. We had a long discussion about that, and I don't remember where we landed. Do you remember where we landed? I'm looking at everybody, because I asked Shauna today, and, you know, to be clear that the airport is here, it is under the constraints of the district, and it is to distribute the cost uniformly among all who benefit. And I think there's value in putting that in the about.
Distribute the costs. Would you say?
This is part of the language of the Airport Act that came, remember Rob made us our own little book?
Say that again, distribute the costs.
The objective being to encourage airport and spaceport development by communities and to distribute the cost uniformly among all who benefit. So I just think capturing some of this language, capturing that we have 24, it used to be 23 grant assurances, but I think there's 24 now, one of them being sustainability has been added. And just that clarity, I think, is very valuable. I'd like to see another version of this.
I think it should be in there somewhere, but I feel like maybe a few of those words and then a footnote, like a bibliography or something in the back that is referenced. So that if somebody's really interested, I think if you get too detailed, you're going to lose people.
Yeah, on the next page, page 9, there's a governance section. I think we can strengthen the governance section with some of the Airport District Act language or reference, along with grant assurance reference. I think it probably would go in there. I wouldn't want to try to list all the grant assurances. It's a pretty
Right.
lengthy document. But I think we could build some of that into the governance section of 5 elected board members, Special District
Capturing
Act,
the Airport Act and the grant assurances.
So I think there's room there under that paragraph to incorporate some of those ideas. And I do have some feedback along that way. David Diamond did provide feedback to me, so I have some notes from him too,
Okay.
along the slides.
And the other piece of this that was interesting was, as part of our open space campaign, the airport also owns, you know, the 1,400 acres of Wattle Ranch. And I know it was getting long, so you only captured that. But the airport has been critical in much more open space in the region. And I don't know, we're responsible for a lot more land, and we've done a great benefit to the area. And I just think, my thought was capturing more of that.
I think that sentence can be reworded to say, you know, including the land consisting of the 1,400 acres at Wattle Ranch. One of the things I really like about the about is that it's easy to read, it's basic. It provides a lot of information, and anybody could read this, you know, a 5th grader could read it and understand what it was saying without getting into the points that you made, which I think are really good, but I think that this is a better place to put those things.
Okay. You know, you wanted my thoughts, so there they are.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is the geographic area. I think I talked to, you know, in terms of who we shared boundaries with, it can get complicated just removing that second sentence. But I like, you know, we can do the Airport Act and grant assurances. Moving along, This was another one that I had in terms of our guiding principles. This is the last version of it here. And I was, we strive to make fair and equitable decision. Under guiding principles, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth bullet, strive to make fair and equitable decisions with property taxes and user fees. I think, taxes, we have other taxes that just get passed through. I think being clear that these are property taxes would be valuable.
I agree with that one, totally.
Then there was a bullet that we had, and we had talked about it. And again, I asked Shauna what she remembered, because I talked to her earlier, in terms of we had a statement about, and this goes to back at the very beginning discussion of what we want to do and what we don't want to do, okay? So one of the statements we had that then I don't know where we landed, we prioritize improving, not expanding airport operations and footprints, and are intentional in making decisions that do not attract or accommodate additional air traffic and airport use. And I think that goes to what we don't want to do. There were people at some point who wanted to attract commercial service. There's people who want to expand. But I think philosophically, I'm in a place where we are an airport. We can't deny anyone coming here, but do we make decisions with intention of...
We've said no.
But this statement did not get into guiding principles. And I think there's value in this guiding principle.
Well, somewhere in here is that we improve our facilities, but not expand.
I saw
Where?
it somewhere.
It was,
Yeah, guiding principle 3 and 4, or 2 and 3 on here captures that, Rick. And I think part of our discussions in the last workshop was consolidating these guiding principles. And those last two, I remember being highlighted as ones we were dropping because they were redundant to the existing ones that are here.
But the idea of do not attract or accommodate additional air traffic and airport use, that's not captured in any guiding principle that I see.
I recall that I think there's concerns with FAA grant assurances and language we use. I think that could be some inflammatory language, and if the FAA could read that is that we are trying to prevent aircraft from coming here. I think it could be a very warm statement, warm to hot statement, depending on who reads it.
yeah, I just want to, so I wanted to respond to where that so Rick mentioned that is it a whole goal area that says maintain. We have a whole thing on maintain. It's focus area 2, goal 2A, maintain existing airport infrastructure. So I think that's where it's not as strong as the guiding principles, you're right. I'm just pointing out that that's where that word maintain had to do with that guiding principle.
I saw it somewhere else. It's somewhere else in here, exactly as you read it. I just don't know where.
It's a strategic plan, kind of thinking, and again, what we want to be, what we don't want to be, and not to inflame the FAA, but to be clear to the community what our vision is and what our guiding principles are. So there are people who say, hey, we should bring in 737s.
Who says that?
Oh, I've heard it. I've been at the old master plan. There were people bringing that. We should set up regional service to other airports. I don't want to go there. I don't know that you want to. I went to right size, and to me, it's like if we go down a path of attracting more traffic. I mean, there's a big difference. At one point, we had some language somewhere at one point that we should advertise it to bring in more traffic. And we all agreed we didn't want to go down that route, if you all recall this. And so...
We all agreed in this strategic plan.
Right.
We're not trying to attract more traffic.
Right, but we never really, they can come, But are we going to make decisions that make it more attractive to come in? And that's where I'm trying to say, it's very clear, and it's very clear to the community that we're not trying to attract additional traffic. They can come, we can't stop them, I mean, and it's great. But as a board, are we intentional in our decisions to attract or to not attract? And I think it would be valuable to capture it. But if I'm the only one, there you go.
Well, I think we agree with you, but the question is, how do we say that? But I think all decisions we make are not to, and it was very clear in the sessions that we didn't want to grow.
Right. I think setting aside the specific issue, I think just overall, I really like the idea of the strategic plan being a positive thing. These are the things we're going to do. And so as soon as you start saying these, but we're not going to do this, it kind of gives a negative tone to it. And that's not, I guess that's not what I want to see. And that's not saying that I disagree with the idea, because we were all five of us don't want to grow.
I think it's also a very valuable messaging to the community, the affected community. But I can sense that there's not mood to put this in as a guiding principle, so we can move on.
I'm just wondering if there's another way to say it that is not, doesn't have like a negative tone to it.
Do you think I can, is it time to respond or do I wait?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
You're part of
if you
this.
look at the mission statement, we do say in the second line, the second part of it, reduce impact. So we aim to provide quality aviation and facilities and reduce impacts to our neighbors. How we do it is in the goals. And how we're going to do that is we're going to maintain what we have and not grow. So we're getting a little bit into the nuance of, does that mean what Mary said? Do we need to say it? What I do want to say is the power of guiding principles, and they are a check. So it is important to spend time on ensuring that the intent of the last year is reflected in the guiding principles, because when staff or something gets brought to all of you to make a decision on, the hope is you use this document and you check back. You know, maybe you're at a point where you're like, I definitely know how I'm going to vote, or I don't know how I'm going to vote, but you say, I'm going to revisit the guiding principles, and that's going to remind me of what we all are aspiring to, and that's helping me to make my decision. So to Mary's point about intent, if that sentence is there, then it's less personal. The tool can be used, hey, you guys, I know we're having this discussion around the blah, 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 but per our guiding principle to do this, I'm feeling like this doesn't align with our guiding principle, and then it's not personal. And so they are really, it's not just a sentence left out or put in. It is a critical tool for future relationship work and taking the personal out of it. I do agree that the intent of that, first of all, that sentence is too long. And so I would say what I would suggest as process is to submit everything, and then we work on wordsmithing it a little bit, and then you all review it with some David's feedback and everyone's feedback, and because it's out of context right now. And really, it's like, if it's really important to one person and you all can live with it, then it's okay to add it in. The letter, comment about the letter, we went both ways. I just wanted to give some backstory to that. Because the intent of this process was to create team, the first idea was to have all of you have all your names and all of your pictures on the, and have one letter from all of you. And then we looked at the word alignment, and we thought a lot about, with staff, we talked a lot about sort of roles, and that part of the alignment and a lot of the work was around clarifying roles. And so it's more traditional to have the GM and the chair in most strategic plans. That said, I'm just throwing out that we went back and forth on either of those, and that's just, I wanted the backstory behind the thoughtfulness that goes into these things. The About section, that is an opportunity where I looked at all of your materials, and it's a sign that you don't have one good boilerplate on like about the airport. You have something in the budget, you have something in the general plan, you have something on the website. So I kind of piece things together, and I don't think it's the best it could be. I think we left some white space on that other page on purpose, thinking that you're going to have this, like the About is what you all think it's like really critical to this entire process is that About section. And so I would suggest taking everyone's feedback and that we give it a go to sort of divide up where things go. But I think a little bit more is better, because this will be kind of the boilerplate for future things. A lot of times staff will use the strategic plan to write the press release or update the website. And so getting it right now is important. I think adding the constraints is great. And I think we wanted to talk to Josh. What I remember about the conversation about the Airport Act and like all the language, that Josh wasn't there, and we talked, and then we got to a point where we were like, where did you even get this information, and so we needed your help on sort of what statement about special districts and the airport and the FAA is accurate about who we are, because we're an unusual being, and we needed some lawyer help on that. So that's just as a reminder where we got to in that conversation. And so if I didn't get consensus, I didn't include it. So that's my response to those so far. But so far, any of these comments are not majorly substantive. And so the process we take it, we make another round of edits, give it back to you, and you look at it one more time.
Great. Did you have more?
Yeah, there's typos, I mean, going through the economic viability, 1C, right after 1C3, it talks to focus area 3, but it's about environmental, so it should be focus area 4, which is environmental.
Okay.
Just, this is what I do in my other life, so I'm, community investments, that's social responsibility, that's true. Moving on, the DEI on page 15 under 2C7, focus area 3, and it's goal B, not goal A. On to social responsibility, page 16. This, again, it's not something we talked about before, but things have come up since, like I went to the noise and air emissions conference. And the idea of communicating, there's a piece here that I think could be valuable, a 3A5 that would be, Rick, you probably remember when we talked about the Tranquility campaign, the idea of reaching out to people, customers as well as the pilots. And I just think, develop a Tranquility campaign. It's put in there, it can have a different timeline, but it makes it so that we're reaching out to customers. And it's a difficult thing, but it becomes a goal.
Right.
So I'd like to see a 3A5 develop a Tranquility campaign. Don't know if the rest of the board agrees. I'm just throwing out my thoughts.
Mary, how is that different than 3A1, which is strengthen communications to local neighbors about the fly quiet?
This is to neighbors. The Tranquility campaign is geared towards customers who may not be pilots and they may
Okay.
not be neighbors. But that, it's not clear. It was attempted at one point and then it did not go anywhere, but I think that it sets it as a goal.
Did that come up in the strategic plan? I
No,
don't
it didn't.
remember.
No.
When was this?
I brought it up in the the Tranquility.
Yeah,
camp. It was it's probably back into 18, 19.
Okay. And what was the goal exactly?
It was to reach out to customers,
To people who fly in?
Right,
Okay.
yeah. So, I'm sure there's a file somewhere on the Tranquility campaign, and to dust it off and look at it, and are there goals in there that are feasible or not, or just to to see.
So currently, we have 3A2, which is strengthen communications with the aviation community about fly quiet and fly safety programs. Does that address what you're talking about as a tranquility campaign?
I'm more interested in reaching out to customers who may not be pilots, who are back of the plane, and reaching out to them, because they're making the decisions. I mean, the pilots choose, their pilots choose how and where they fly, but that awareness for them that if they, you know, there was a lot of talk at one point about it, and I would like, and there was consensus of the board at the time to start trying to develop literature or reaching out to those folks. And I just would like to see it again.
Yeah, I think our-
People come off of these big planes,
Yeah, just to,
what their impact is.
correct. And it would be a difficult thing, but it's,
Yeah, and we were putting stuff up and it was, you know, nothing really happened on it.
Yeah, we talked about this in staff, this concept, and I think this is probably trying to reach the passengers on private aircraft is perhaps the most difficult thing to do in a campaign, a tranquility campaign, any communication campaign. We don't know who they are. We don't have access to them. I don't know how you would actually do that. I mean, we've talked about it in staff, but I think you're defining something that, as a staff, we have no idea how to do that
There were
or
i-
measure it.
okay.
Yeah.
There were ideas at the time. There were things like, okay, when Martis Camp Suburban comes on field, there's literature in there for those folks. There was ideas like running ads in those communities.
Yeah, so the idea of literature, you know, we make the commercial operating permit, people accessing the ramp. You have to have this literature in your vehicle. We can check on that. Once they leave here or go somewhere, I can't
No.
force that driver to give us a stump speech about the airport while they're
under-
riding somewhere.
I
So to me,
understand.
that was, you know, a little bit of a useless effort to pursue, to be honest.
There's literature that could be put out in the lobby for other passengers. I'm just, fine.
What's the message, though?
The message is, if your decision to go out at a certain time, or, you know, you could be disturbing the teachers, you could be disturbing your doctors and nurses, you know, be aware that if, you know, there are some aircraft that leave at 1 in the morning or at 5 in the morning. I have a meeting somewhere. Well, you have all the rights, but do you have the responsibilities?
Yeah, so just a little bit of the strategic planning process. Do you guys mind if I jump in here? So we could, I don't think we're at a phase where we're talking about new programs, but if we added, because right now we're diving into like, should we do a program or not?
Yeah.
But if we added a word, strengthen communications to the aviation community and customers about flight quiet and safety programs, if that's in there, then at least staff can come back with that information to say, hey, we reviewed everything and this is what this was in 2016, we just Googled the Tranquility Campaign, it's on your website. And this is and it's more formalized, like, we heard you wanted us to look at that, here's our staff report on why here's the history, we don't have any metrics on it, we're proposing we don't do it. At least then, we can move forward and it's not lost, and because I know Mary's brought it up a few times, but there is some history and then it's in there and that's the place to do it as far as process. That's my proposal, because right now you guys are going to debate whether we should do Tranquility or not. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is something we talked about in the workshop and was put aside through a lot of conversation. So now we're revisiting it, even though we've already discussed it,
I
right?
think her idea has value. I mean, I'm good with that.
I think if you add customers, then, yeah, it's fine. That gives staff something to look at and revisit, and we've got new staff, so we might as well.
Add the word.
I mean,
Okay.
it is the Fly Quiet campaign, right?
Right.
So, okay.
Okay. The 3B1 has create a tool and then talks to see attachment A, for example. And 3BA, there was it was not clear to me. 3, attachment A is everything, so it just seemed redundant. On to natural resources. Here, where it was 2028, and here it's going to 2045, both aggressive. I was just thinking, do we, California State has a 2030 deadline on gas, not burning gas. I was just thinking maybe split the difference and go to 2035, being a little more aggressive than 2045.
Yeah, our current commitments with the Climate Transformation Alliance is 2045, so I was just trying to mirror that with the existing documents approved by the board.
Okay. Area 3, B, okay. And then this is, again, having just been to that noise and air emissions conference, under where we have renew, electrify the airport, maximize renewable energy use. That's all tied to what we're going to do on the airport. I just wondered about a potential 4B4, pursue information and educate about electric aviation opportunities. Informing us, informing through data that, marketing that we put out to start, because it is going to be here, whether it's 2 years or 5 years. I think just getting that information out into the community is valuable. I would like to see a 4B4.
Yeah, so my understanding of 4B2 is create an electrification plan for the airport would address those very things.
That to me, electrification plan for the airport says, are we going to have ADUs, that are in ground to provide electricity for an aircraft? What I'm saying is, how do we get information out to people about electric airplanes? It's a little bit more as a goal. Because if you're pursuing that information, you're educating us, that's valuable. If we're pursuing information and when we put information on the website or on an ad saying, Livermore has electric airplanes, Fresno has an electric airplane, people know it's coming and that the decibels related to it, that the greenhouse gas associated with it. It's just letting people know that it's coming, because I don't think people know it's coming as an average thing, and it's going to make a difference in terms of how this airport functions.
Because our biggest greenhouse gas issue is these damn planes.
Well, we all have it. I mean, I fly in planes, I have a car. I'm just saying that education, we always talk about education. This is an opportunity to get information and educate. It's another goal. But I don't know.
I'm just trying to help you guys not, so how about create an electrification plan for the airport and share industry trends with the community?
I like it.
Is that, I mean, you would,
Yeah, so, our sharing with the community is part of this public board process here. Trying to dive down the details of, do we buy full space ad pages and papers and let people know there's electric airplanes available for sale in the U.S.? That might be too far. So finding some balance on that is certainly what we'd bring back. I think about it being as part of create an electrification plan for the airport, which is our responsibility is mostly infrastructure, and presenting that information to the board of directors, what we think we could build as infrastructure here to accommodate future electrification of the industry in this public process as part of our role here as an airport district.
Okay. And going back, one other one under achieve airport carbon neutrality, one idea would be 4A3, which is educate customers and pilots about their greenhouse gas emissions. We used to have that graphic that talked about emissions, and I thought that was valuable. And I think that we should have it up again, that people can see how much, I have a footprint, you all have a footprint, and, you know, and then there's that website that shows that one kit is developed showing all different, I showed that to you. But I don't think that it's harmful. Educate pilots, customers about their greenhouse gas emissions. I think that would be a powerful goal, and that ties to something we used to have.
So the board just recently approved a contract with N0, which is a carbon monitoring measurement company. So we'll be bringing on board a public website that will show our carbon emissions here at the airport, and we'll certainly be looking at that and sharing that with the public. It'll be a public website as a way to not just show a poster of concepts, but actual what we're doing, what the footprint is here.
Okay?
I think that'll be valuable.
That what? The
Oh, the information we get from N0.
from N0, okay. And under transition, where we have prioritized sustainable aviation fuels, as well as the non-leaded fuel that is coming down the line, which is captured in 4E2, but the transition prioritized sustainable aviation fuels, as well as the non-leaded. I think that would be valuable to have that as the header.
I would have to disagree with that one because it's constantly changing. You're getting really specific about what you want to put in there, but this kind of technology is constantly changing. And so this will become dated if we get specific on it.
Well, again, I just went to that conference, and this non-leaded aviation fuel for the smaller aircraft is available now.
And I'm not debating that. I'm saying if you look at this in 10 years and that's off the table because everything's electric, it's...
This is a 3 to 5 year plan. So, okay. On to page A-2. Oh, there was a reference in here where it went to attachment C, and there is no attachment C. Oh, I guess that's within, where did I see it? Somewhere there's a reference to attachment C, and there is no attachment C. In terms of conduct a permanent control tower sighting tower study, we actually had that during our meeting at 2025, and it's been moved to 2024. And I was curious how the board, where we're at with that in terms of prioritization.
Hasn't that been started? The sighting study?
Not yet.
Okay.
We had, it was in this version in 2025.
25, okay.
So that's to me where I would like to see it, but right now it's in 24. You know, it's all again.
Yeah, we had it
it's
in this
how
year's
much
budget,
staff time.
right, yeah.
It's all again, it's how staff denotes their time and what studies we're doing, and is that a priority for next year? There's a lot on the table that's already getting pushed into next year. So, and
I think maybe the budget process might.
Yeah, so it's currently budgeted for this year, is $100,000 for a sighting study, and hopefully we'll get that engaged by the end of this year. I don't expect any movement results based on their backlog of doing sighting studies until 2024. So I didn't want to put it all the way up to 2025, but I thought it was more appropriate in 2024 because we weren't going to have the results this year.
okay. In terms of, you know, other little things, you've got XX in, you know, things that say every other year, but you've got them happening back-to-back years. And, oh, attachment C was on page A3, 3B1. So there is no attachment C. And then the two places where you've got them back to that back, but you say 2 years are in here a couple places, just, you know, it'll show up once because it's going to happen in 25 and then it won't show up again. So that was it. I was comparing this to the last version and just, those were my thoughts.
I have a point on, what is it, 386? Is that what that is, the very bottom one? Move DEI goals forward. Does everybody know what DEI means, or should we spell it out? I'm just saying.
We all do, but yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, we'll spell it out. It's other places in the document, but
Yeah.
it should be spelled out. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what that is. Yeah. Yes, you may.
Thank you. We spent a lot of time on this, and it's a little appalling that it's been published and there's no public comment. You know, you'd think the public would be interested in a strategic plan at the Truckee Tahoe Airport. Where is everybody?
It's July.
Maybe they'll do it online.
It's July? Is that the answer?
Everybody's on vacation.
Okay, I would have liked some people to tell us it's great, it's bad, it's terrible, it's fantastic. You know, I mean, you look at the town of Truckee's general plan. I mean, there were lots of people at their meetings talking all the time, and this is the smallest attendance we have had in my memory at this airport board. That's my comment.
Okay. Anything? Okay. Thank you, Mary, for all of your comments. And so it looks like you have some things to work with. But I do want to settle.
I did raise my hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Noticed.
We didn't have you up there. Sorry, Mike.
Okay. I read this plan with shock and dismay. Rick, shock and dismay. I observe, or I did not find anywhere, any reference to providing access to aeronautical activities by the residents of the district. The appearance is that the management of the airport and the majority of the board are only interested in hosting personal airliners. And this pains me greatly. As a resident of the Glenshire area, I happen to have my glider out of its box right next to the house. And 2 neighborhood kids came by and were extremely interested in it. These are 14-year-olds. And I told them all about what has been doing, the youth program that we have had at the airport. And all I could say to them is, well, it was very good, but the airport management and the majority of the board seem to be against it continuing. So what can I say? That's my comment.
Thanks, Mike. Anybody else on Zoom care to comment? Okay, but I do, before you leave, I want to settle the letter issue and who signs it. Right? Because Mary brought up some concerns. As I recall, you and Rob and I all kind of went with the traditional, like as you explained.
Yeah, I would say, first of all those comments, if they could be sent to us in a written format. I took some of them down, but just in a written format. I'm not clear on what the process is right now for deciding which of those comments make it in or don't. And so that would be helpful. I mean, I can take them all and then do my best to incorporate all of the typo type things. Obviously, we'll do all that.
Yeah.
But the comments about adding words or adding guiding principles or the change in the letter, you all need to give more clear direction on that. Otherwise,
It needs to be a board decision, not
Yes.
just Mary's decision.
right, correct.
We
So-
need to give you guidance.
Yes, so everything, so I would just like some direction on process at this point based on the feedback. There's probably 4 things that are not related to some cleanup, right? Just probably 4 things. Maybe 5. So,
There were a few things, Shauna, that you made a suggestion and we all agreed with. You know, like adding customers to the Fly Quiet, you know, reach out to customers as well as. So I feel like a lot of the ones that we discussed, we had some agreement on, but I don't want anything to fall through the cracks.
Yeah, I think it has to do with time. I mean, one process is you need to make a board decision you need to make a decision around the letter, and then the guiding principle, but the other things would be like the whole rewrite or editing of the about, and then adding in the constraints. There was agreement, I heard agreement on that, so I'll work with staff to just clean that up. But it seems to me that we would give you a red line version to review, and then you would say, yes, that looks great, or no, we're gonna need to talk about that. But I don't have direction on the
As it
guiding
relates to the
principle.
letter, I could go either way. No opinion. I mean, it's cool to have my name on the front page like that, but then again, I'm tied to it, so it's on the next page, so I could go either way.
Rick, how do you feel about the letter?
I don't care. I'm not running for reelection.
So it's up to you. We can go either way.
I mean, I don't care either, honestly, I don't care.
Well, she does. So
Yeah,
none of
she
us
does.
care. Let's do it.
So, you know, if you guys don't care, then fine, let it be. I mean. Well, no, I'm just saying, you know, you're the person who feels, who has an opinion on it. The rest of us really don't. So I would say, if you'd like for everybody's name to be on there, then we don't mind either way, so
I guess
let's do it.
The only difficulty is that I would assume we want to adopt this in August, that it'll come back.
We'd like to, yeah.
And I don't know, yeah, David will be back, so he could sign it, right?
I just signed it and sent her a photo of it.
Oh, okay.
she's
So
got-
that'd
yeah,
work.
it's easy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a hard thing to do.
Yeah. So,
Okay. So we'll redo the letter or the signatures. Yeah.
So you want the letter from the 5 board members? Is that what?
No, I'm not
Right.
writing anything.
right.
Let's sign it.
You want,
Yeah,
right, you
you're
want it to be
signing.
from the 5 board members? now,
Yes.
Right.
And the GM. Yeah? Fine. Is that, I mean,
Fine.
Yeah. I mean, Rob and I went back and forth on this because they're both great ways. I agree, like, there's not a right or wrong answer, just,
Yeah.
that's fine. The other thing that would be helpful is, do you want us to include some iteration of the language that Mary presented in the guiding principles? That's the only other, all the other ones are just really small, subtle. There's
Really
adding
quickly.
one more guiding principles that has to do with, we will try to not, and then there was a comment about the FAA.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so,
I was against that one personally.
okay.
Yeah, I have some notes for governance rewrite I can provide based on comments here today and from David Diamond. I think we can strengthen the governance
okay.
brief paragraph a little bit more.
Yeah.
Our Special District Act, grant assurances, those kind of language. I think we can draft that and provide that
Okay.
for you, Shauna.
And property tax.
And
whatever
property
page
tax, I have
was
that note in
Yeah,
there too,
have that
yep.
thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate everybody spending the time going through it with me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see where we landed on the governing, the guiding principles.
Yes.
I think
Oh.
Shauna was asking the question.
Yeah, I think Jeff has a really good point.
Okay, so I think
with
with.
the FAA. So
yeah.
I don't think, I mean, I personally don't want to see, you know, we're not going to expand because I feel like that idea has been interwoven in a lot of different areas of this. So I don't personally think that we need to state that specifically in the guiding principles.
Okay, but it did trigger expanding some of the constraints and about,
Yeah,
so that, okay.
Yeah.
They're a little bit different topic. Okay, so we're not going to, agreement that we're not adding an additional guiding principle, but we're going to strengthen the
Strengthen
governance
the
and
second
and the
page.
constraints and the language around the Airport
I agree.
Act.
You agree?
I agree.
but keeping it short. And so we might have some of those things as a reference.
All right.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, thanks so much.
good.
Guidance.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I'll just.
Shauna, thank you. That was really good work. There's a lot of work involved over the last year, and I really like the product you all put together, and we got some fine-tuning comments from staff perspective as well, and feedback from the board, and I think we should be able to turn this around pretty quick with a
Yep.
couple of minor edits.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
thank
I
you
would
so
just,
much.
you're welcome. It was great to work with you, and I would just encourage you to, once it is approved, push it out, and maybe you'll get some additional comments then that you can keep for the next round of edits.
I will say that I had this out on my counter for my husband's 60th birthday party, and people were looking through it and saying, "Oh, this looks really good." So they're not at the meeting, but you know.
Yeah. All right, great. Well,
You
thanks,
did a
everyone.
nice job. Thank you,
Yeah.
Shannon.
Thanks.
And I want to say, I appreciated that it's 17 pages with the work plan, or 19 page, that some of the examples you gave us at the beginning were books.
Right,
And this captures the essence, and that was awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just please use it in your discussion.
And thank you for hiring Alison Schwegner.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's a big win for you.
Yeah, it is. All right, take care.
Thanks a lot, Shauna. Okay, moving on. Rob, number 8, administrative land purchase opportunity.
Thank you, Kat. This item is, there's some detail in a letter from the forest supervisor, but the recommended action here today is to approve the submittal of an application of intent to purchase the Tahoe National Forest 32-acre vacant land parcel located on the map on the screen. That's within the Truckee Airport Inner Approach Departure Zone B1 in our land use compatibility plan. And an intent to purchase would be subject to further district board review of the vacant land and the appraisal once it's conducted. And I'm happy to take questions on this.
How much?
There's no price yet, so part of the process would be we notify the Forest Service of our interest and intent to purchase it, and then we begin a process that would engage a appraiser to appraise the property.
Do we know anything about it? Zoning?
It is, other than being in our B1 runway inner departure zone, I believe it is zoned. Did I not have it in there? Yeah. Let me come back. Is it further down on the paper there?
Yeah, I think I just saw it.
That's the club, that's not town zoning,
That's the last one is the town zoning.
that's club.
No, that's club.
And yeah.
I mean, sure, we should apply for it. I'm just wondering if we can throw up some tiny houses or affordable housing or anything at all.
It's definitely an area you probably wouldn't want to put housing up. It was discussed in the past as an opportunity to put housing there, and I think the consensus was for everybody who was in that conversation with my predecessor was that was probably not the best place to put housing in our B1 departure arrival zone, just because of the overflight, constant noise, traffic area.
You'd have to access it from Olympic Heights, and that valley that you see as you drive up to 267 fills with a lot of water in the spring.
Right.
It should be inexpensive, but we don't want anybody else doing stuff there, so that's what we're thinking about.
It was, we were approached years ago about it, and it was $1 million. And Forest Service had thought about building housing for their staff there. But obviously, they're getting instead to surplus it. The other aspect of it is, this is something we should message with the Olympic Heights neighborhood, because many of those people access that area as recreation at those houses that are on that street would not have neighbors.
Yeah, open space, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's, I don't know what the appraisal, do we have to pay for the appraisal, or do they?
We do.
What do you do, walk dogs on it?
Isn't that what the dotted line is, a trail?
Yeah, I see people walking there all the time.
Yeah.
Have you walked dogs there?
I have not walked my dogs there, no. It's too close to the highway. So it's exempt from the Surplus Land Act? I mean,
Oh,
don't they have to?
Josh.
This is federal land.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, this is federal land. The Forest Service has to follow a procedure to dispose of land. They're allowed to dispose of land to entities like ours, a special district here in California, airport. They're not subject to California surplus rules for
Oh,
land.
okay, okay.
Right.
Okay. But, okay. So
It's
what
zoned
you're
as public,
asking-
Josh was just looked it up real quick. It's zoned as public facilities is the land.
Okay,
Right, thank you.
all right. So what you're asking is to move forward with this and ask them to go with.
If the board is interested in their consensus, direction, approval to send the Forest Service District Ranger a note that we are interested and would like to begin the process of further investigation of this land's value, the process for disposal of federal Forest Service land, to give us more information to make another decision about whether or not we actually want to do it. The value comes back too much, the process is too long, limitations, a variety of things.
And-
We'll better inform our actual decision to do it or not. But
Can't other entities bid for it besides us, the
Oh,
town or the?
in the current
county?
process, they're offering it to us. It would be open to other entities like us if they're interested in it also. So there'll be a public process for the Forest Service to go through to begin the process of disposal of the land. Other public entities like us could show up and go, we'd really like that land too. We'd like to make you an offer, essentially. So there's a process to go through. But if we decide we don't want to purchase the land, if other public entities here that are eligible are not interested in it, there's a whole different process they have to go through to dispose it to the general public.
In which case it could end up in a developer's property who could choose to build housing there.
Ultimately, yes, if they dispose of the land,
And it is B1.
right.
Which, yeah.
You can maybe get some of the river stuff up there.
They would have to access through.
Are you sure? Why can't you just pull off at 267 where we see the access?
You mean where I pulled off to look at it?
Yeah, there you go.
There's some gravel there.
Well, you can improve it.
I understand, but I doubt that's the access for this property being developed. But then I don't know.
That's a Caltrans thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that, poof,
Could be
Whatever,
offered
send a letter.
Send the letter.
and then we'll
You
see.
make a motion?
You want to make a
Do you
motion?
need a motion?
We do need a motion. There's a recommended motion at the bottom of the page.
I move to approve the notice of intent to purchase approximately 32 acres of vacant Tahoe National Forest land as identified in the letter of July 6, 2023, from the Tahoe National Forest Supervisor.
Second.
Director Hetherington?
Yes.
Director Odette? Public
Oh.
comment?
Public comment? Is there any public comment? Do we see anybody on Zoom?
Oh,
Oh, Mike
David's
has
there.
public comment. Go ahead, Mike.
And David has
And
arrived.
David.
Oh,
David,
David's
you're back.
here.
Nice sparkly shirt.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
You're muted, Mike. Yeah, his hand might still.
Thank you,
Oh.
thank you.
Oh,
I
there he is.
didn't realise that. Yeah, upon reading this, I thought, well, what's the point? It's the aeronautically discouraged from any kind of development zone. If the airport owns it or if the Forest Service owns it, what's the difference? There shouldn't be any development going on there other than nature trails anyway. That's my comment.
Thanks, Mike. All right, David, do you have anything to say about this?
I do not have anything to add.
Okay. All right, roll call. Wait a second, Rick.
Director Stevens? Director Stevens?
Yes.
Okay. Director Diamond?
Yes.
Director Heatherington?
Yes.
Director Odette?
Yes.
And Director Rolfe?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so let's take a short break, since we're already taking one. And 10 to August, hopefully. Number 11, board committee assignments and ad hoc committee reports. You have any update, Lauren?
We interviewed the final 2 candidates in closed session for the executive director position, and we offered the position to the candidate that came out on top, and they have accepted it. I can't disclose the name yet because the agency wants to send out a press release. So once that is done, we'll announce who the individual is.
This is workforce housing?
Yes. But the entire board was unanimous in their decision, and we're very excited for the new executive director to start. I believe the first day will be August 28th. They will come aboard and go through a 90-day transition with Emily Vitus. Other than that, we reviewed the tactical plan that the executive director will have at their disposal to implement the strategic plan. We provided direction to Emily on that. Other than that, that was our meeting.
Local person?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Climate Transformation Alliance report. Rob, did you have anything?
Everything additional than what's in the report already.
Okay. And act attendance for, what is it, August 11th? Or 9th, okay.
And we'll talk about the strategic plan
Awesome.
draft.
I will still be on the road, so I cannot attend that one.
Okay,
I will try. I will
I
check
will.
my calendar.
I will try as well.
Pass.
Yeah. Pass and LAFCO, yeah. It's pretty much always the story. Okay, general managers report. Anything you want to highlight, Rob?
Yeah, thanks, Kat. Just a couple of things to highlight other than the report, just questions on it. Our runway 220 is closed now for reconstruction. The contractor's been given a notice to proceed, so they have a window of time from this past Monday, the 24th, through the 31st to get to work, essentially. They're clearing their final documents with their stormwater prevention plan. They're moving equipment. We expect no later than the 31st that there'll be a lot of work going on, but they're in the preparation staging period now. We have also been notified from our local FAA office that they are going to be conducting a land use compliance inspection here at the Truckee Tahoe Airport, and that'll be the first inspection like that done here. It's something to do at a number of different general aviation airports and commercial airports. We drew the long or the short straw, and so we will be enjoying a land use compliance inspection here during the time frame of the next board meeting, actually. Also, our existing agreements for our agency partnerships with the town of Truckee and Placer County around our support of the TARP program, the various TARP bus programs, have expired. And so I've been talking with both those entities about drafting new agreements and how we want to move forward with those past support of those programs. There's a number of different programs under the umbrella called TARP, and we'll likely be bringing that back to the board for review and discussion as part of the budget process. And that's about just shy of $300,000 a year that we're partnering with those two entities to support a variety of different TARP type programs for the community. There's an update in my written comments about parking. We're still closing with Park Mobile and getting signage out onto our long-term parking lots and our short-term lot here at the terminal to move to an online payment system program for our overnight parking. And those are the highlights, unless there's questions.
Land exchange.
There's been a working group put together that will begin starting meeting next week on walking through the process with Nevada County, the two public entities, and the town of Truckee as well, with our legal teams to move through the process of the exchange. So I expect it'll take several months to go through that process, but I will continue to have an update. I didn't have any update yet because we haven't met yet, but we will here shortly.
Awesome. Any
So-
other questions?
Well,
Yeah.
I assume now is a good time, Josh, that I talked to you about, or at the end of this section?
It's up to you, Mary.
Okay. This is in regard to the sign on the front door about alcohol being served at Red Truck. And to me, that's a safety issue. I am not concerned about our locally based tenants. I'm not concerned about commercial pilots. I am concerned about the transient pilots who come in for a $50 burger and then have a beer, have 2 beers, and fly out. And you were talking, you were going to read the leases and talk about if we have liability. I'm looking that we have deep pockets. And I have very much concern that we do not allow that. Kevin would not allow it. I think it's a bad idea, and we have to respond by August 7th. So we can't discuss yes or no. We can't get into a discussion about it.
That's right, yeah, so this is on the agenda, so we can't discuss the merits, but what we can do, if the board would like, is we could talk about, is there an interest in having a discussion about the merits? And given the time frame, that likely would need to take place in a special meeting before the August 7th deadline. There also would need to be some time for Rob and I to kind of go through our options to make sure that at this point we could rescind it and what sort of that process would look like.
So just to add some more detail on that, our current cafe here is under lease to operate here for some time now. The Red Truck requested to apply for a beer and wine license, not a liquor license. So they provided me the paperwork as the property owner. Essentially, I endorsed that and signed that on behalf of the airport district as part of my regular management duties, so they can apply to go through the public process of notice to get a beer and wine license. Currently, in past practice, at the air show we recently had, I signed authorization for beer and wine license at the air show. Our local nonprofits sold quite a bit of beer and wine during the air show. We've had special events in a variety of our hangars, which the airport district has signed and approved beer and wine licenses for those special events here at the airport. Our food hub operates and sells beer and wine, along with other great fresh food from local farmers here at the airport district in our warehouse, and have done that for quite a few years now. So this is not a unique request on the part of the cafe to get a beer and wine license. I thought it was in keeping with existing practices here at the airport across a number of different areas. And so I did approve it, and that's where the current status is. Public notice on the door, which is typical to notify the public that somebody has applied for a beer and wine license.
I think we should discuss it.
I think so.
I mean, I have an opinion, but I can't say it right now until we agendize it.
Yeah, you can share your opinion. We just don't want to get into a debate of the merits, if that makes sense.
I mean, is it possible for us to ask Larry not to sell beer and wine to pilots? I mean, they got uniforms on.
Come on, every airport in the country has a bar.
I don't think I've been to a commercial aviation airport that didn't sell beer and wine on my way to the gate.
But, well, we can't discuss it, but you're talking about a commercial entity as compared to a general aviation. If you are flying general aviation at a commercial airport, you are not in the regular airport that sells alcohol.
Well, the concern I heard was that a pilot that flew in would drink and then fly out, and pilots certainly transit all kinds of airports, whether it's commercial or general aviation, and have certain ethics and rules and standards that they comply to. And it's widely available across the country, pretty much every other airport.
Well,
Could I offer, as a professional pilot, the analogy we're using would be the equivalent of don't have the gas station sell beer, because the person driving the car may buy beer. As a pilot, if you're caught drinking or your BAC, I believe it's .02, there's, depending on if it's Part 91, Part 135, Part 121, there's different rules. You're done. As a commercial pilot, or even as a private pilot.
I'm not concerned about commercial pilots.
The same holds true for Part 91 private pilot as well.
My concern is that we get named. And we probably wouldn't be held liable, but we'd spend a lot of legal money to that process. So I just think it's a bad idea. I think it is a safety issue. And I guess I would like it to be discussed. But I don't know that we have.
I mean, maybe we can just do the thumbs up or thumbs down as the 5 of us, because we can't talk about it.
I don't think we can do that, Josh.
That's an action item.
Not an action item.
Just if, yeah.
Hey,
Whatever.
I mean, Teresa, I think that's a good point. I mean, maybe one way to approach it would be, if there is a quorum of the board that is interested in discussing reversing the general manager's decision on this, it probably makes sense to agendize a special meeting. If there isn't a quorum that would be interested in reversing the decision, then the board should discuss whether it makes sense to have that special meeting.
Okay, I am not interested in reversing the general manager's decision.
I'm not interested in that either, sorry.
I'm not interested in having that discussion.
That's 3. I can count.
So, can I say something else? I feel like I'm on thin ice here, like Josh is going to just tell me we can't talk about that. But I also feel like this brings up a bigger point, which is at what point do we want Rob to bring this kind of thing to us for approval before? I mean, I think, yeah, I've been pretty vocal. I don't want to micromanage. Does this go under micromanaging, or is this a big enough issue, potential issue? And how do we define that? Like how, I don't want us to second guessing all these decisions that you make. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think that there are some important decisions, and what's the metric for, I should take this to the board first, right? Teresa?
I would say if it's a precedent or something that's never happened before, we should probably chat about it. But if there is precedent, all day long.
This is a precedent. This has never been before us before.
I know.
Well, there is to some extent. I mean, we let the food hub sell.
Can't talk about it.
Oh, okay. Now you're going to be the police.
Yeah, and I would just provide maybe my perspective. I mean, yeah, I think that's absolutely a discussion that the board should have with Rob, whenever you feel is the appropriate time to do so. And, that's also something, I know there's quarterly check-ins with Rob, and, for as part of the evaluation process, that can also be part of that conversation.
Okay.
I think, and to the extent Rob feels that additional policies would be helpful in that context, I think that's something that can be discussed as well.
Okay. All right, is there any public comment on this issue? Oh, sure. Tal.
Hi.
I'm supposed to introduce myself, right? My name's Tal Fletcher. I live about a mile away, and I'm up here totally unprepared to talk about this. I didn't even know it was on the agenda, but wearing probably 3 or 4 hats on this topic right now. I'm a pilot. I live a mile away. I eat almost half my meals each week at the Red Truck. I'm also a small business owner. And again, without being prepared to say this, just shooting from the hip, as a member of the public and a small business owner, I would hate to see this board direct staff to infringe on a small business owner that does business at the airport and does a great job doing it. As a pilot, I think Jeff mentioned a lot of really good points, and I'm sure there's pilots out there that have a beer and go flying, but it's as close to unheard of from my experience as as I can imagine. It's just not a thing. There's strict rules, and it would just be stupid, and it's not a common occurrence. And if it was, they could walk over to Rayleigh's to the bar above the grocery store and grab a beer there. They can bring a cooler with them and a picnic and have a beer in their plane if they want. So the thought, I think the analogy of a gas station that sells beer is a good one. The thought that just because there's beer and wine available here, and that's going to somehow encourage a pilot to make a series of terrible decisions, I think that's really far out there. And Mary, if I hear you right, you're concerned more about the worst case scenario and the litigious possibilities. I don't want to speak for you, but that's what I think what I heard you say, and I think there's some merit there. But let's let small business owners be small business owners, and let's let people make good adult decisions, and let's use this airport or encourage small business owners like Larry at this airport to create community gathering space. We've got an awesome park and a playground. We've got one of the best restaurants in town. And if they want to sell beer and wine, and if that encourages people in our community to come out here and be at the airport doing positive, fun, family stuff, including maybe having a beer and a nice meal, I think that's a really good thing. So, like I said, sorry, I'm not prepared to talk about it, but that's what I got. Thanks.
Thanks, Tal. Anybody on the Zoom call? Okay.
Could I just?
David,
I had a
yeah.
question about in the general manager's report. I know we got off on the tangent of talking about the beer wine thing, but we
Sure.
never got to the deliberation on the general manager or the discussion. But if we're going to go there, then I can wait. Otherwise, I just have a real quick question.
I was a bit slow, but I did raise my hand for the wine and beer.
Oh, okay, let's let David ask his question, and I'll come back to you, Mike, okay?
Absolutely, yes.
Hey, Rob, I just wondered, with the closure of 220, what changes we're seeing in traffic and traffic. I mean, obviously, everybody has to use 1129, but are we seeing a reduction in traffic, or are we just seeing people move to 1129?
So we're 3 days into this, a third day of closure now, and we've had some significant winds starting early in the morning. I think each of these 3 days, usually it's in the afternoon. Jeff, I'm going to ask Jeff to talk a little bit about that and about our Fly Quiet program. Maybe it's a good opportunity to talk about accommodations.
Yeah, great question, David. So the weather, we've had super strong winds. Pretty much a direct crosswind starting on Monday, and historically where they start closer to noon, 1 o'clock, they've been starting 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Today winds were 200 at 13 gusting 23. Yesterday they were 200, 16 gusting 29. So Monday it was about the same. So the traffic count has been super low. Jets have been flying, number of go-arounds. So having 0220 closed with what's been, these are beyond the historic winds we have, and they've been earlier in the morning. In terms of Fly Quiet, we've gotten a couple requests already because of the windy afternoons of people wanting to depart early. We've authorized that for flight safety reasons. So the winds look like they're supposed to calm down just after this weekend. Then I think we'll have a better idea of what traffic looks like. But in general, traffic's way down, and it's because of the direct crosswinds.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, you had a comment?
Yes, my comment on the wine and beer business was simply that there is a public service. You've got a person providing public service, and if you're going to restrict that, then you're restricting the airport's service to the public. And that is, with the restaurant, very much restricting service to the people who are paying for your existence, the property taxpayers, the ordinary working stiffs who would really like to have the airport be a nice place for themselves. That's my comment.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, let's see.
District major projects, I think you listed those. Does anybody have any questions on the projects? Aviation and Community Services report. Does anybody have any questions for Jeff? Or Jeff, any
Just a
highlights?
couple highlights. I already talked about runway 0220. I think we'll see some more flight quiet requests on these windy days, and the winds the past couple of days have been really, really strong, exceeding the crosswind limits of probably a lot of the smaller aircraft. Your smaller aircraft, it's 10 to 16 knots. Direct crosswind is usually the manufacturer's kind of limit, depending on how much they weigh. We've been over that. I've been listening to the radios. The tower has done an outstanding job talking to pilots multiple times today alone. Do you want 1-1? Winds just shifted. Now they're favoring 2-9. The winds are just shifting 10, 15 degrees, but it makes a difference. So the tower's been doing a great job doing that. Smithsonian channel's on here. It was a great day. They were out here doing the filming. Kat was there. I was there. It's going to be a really neat story talking about Grant and the veteran. Double amputee, lost both his legs in Iraq, and him and Grant went flying. Smithsonian Channel filmed the whole thing, so it'll be a really neat story. We'll find out. It's going to be a while before it airs. Back to runway 02, sorry. A couple things we did, just communicating that we've had it on the website. We've put in the e-blast. We sent a mailer out to 4,900 residents. It was the same address distribution group that we used to notify people about the air show. On Monday, we had an Air Traffic Control 101 presentation. We had 13 pilots. It was outstanding. Larry from our control tower and an Oakland Center rep controller was here. Their presentation was about 60 minutes. Q&A went a solid hour, and I had to cut it off. It's 8 o'clock at night. It was one of the better conversations I've seen between pilots and controllers. It was really good. So I think we'll see a big showing in August. And the FAA also gave us wings credit for it, and so 5 of the pilots showed up to get their to get phase credit for the wings program. So that was really positive. Last month there were 17 curfew flying hours, but they were all within their flight quiet window. The 2 that were not, David Van Quest talked to one of the aircraft. It was a PC-12, landed at 6:45 in the morning, so just barely. And the other aircraft was a transient, landed at 6:55 a.m. So outside of the curfew, and those are the only 2 that were not within flight quiet windows. No changes to hangars. And I think the winds are going to be a really big factor as the summer goes on. I don't think they're historically this bad, but it's going to create some unique challenges. Also, I have a couple slides to show for the mobile pass. Regarding the air show, starting upper left, we had 2,200 downloads as we advertised. Of that, I have to put on my glasses. I can't see it. Can you make that bigger, Lauren? It's as big as it. There we are. Okay. So there's about 2,500 in party. So if you downloaded the pass, you could, how many are in the party? 2, 3, 1. So 2,500 RSVPs. We estimate there were about 11,000 people using this data. Jill, DVQ, me, Mike, a number of us were trying to filter. We were not bodyguards. We weren't, acting as bouncers. Show me your pass or you can't go in. But just talking and engaging with people. Hey, do you have the mobile pass downloaded? About 50%. It was somewhere between 40 to 60. If you ask each of us, we have a different opinion. 50 is right in the middle. So if you do the 5,500 times 2, it would be around 11,000-ish people. If you add the middle school was here the day before with about 220 kids, including teachers, plus some of the folks that came out, I think we're very clearly somewhere in the middle, low 11s to maybe low 12,000 people. In terms of communications, I think for the district, this is one of the bigger benefits. We garnered 247 new email addresses for people that opted in that said, I want to receive more information about the ongoings at the airport. So it's a 31% increase for what we traditionally call when we send out an e-blast. So that's a huge good news story for us. Demographics, 51% were district residents. I would add to that, if you look at the cities below, Reno, Sparks, and Incline Village, if you add those up, that's about another 17%, though not technically in the district. I think a lot of us would consider those residents or locals, if you will. So there's around 70% of the folks are locals, 51% physically in the district, again, based on this data. Beyond that, mostly from the Sacramento Bay Area, and there are people in general from 38 states and 5 countries. When I say 5 countries, that was a total of 9 people from the 5 countries. So I think it's probably the best snapshot we've ever gotten from an air show, or at least from this air show. So you can see the sign-ups by day. It's kind of hard to read, but that there's a very big spike about three weeks before the air show. Excuse me, that was just before the Makerspace. I think it was the 8th of June. And that was with the pre-sign-up. So we had almost a quarter of our sign-ups were done with pre-sign-ups. That was our advertising. We modified our website with new leaders. So we got that big spike, and you could just see kind of by day how it spiked just before the air show as well. Prizes, you can see some of the numbers there. Just anecdotally, the most asked for prize was an umbrella. We had, I think, 31 umbrellas in a closet, and here's a prize. And I think some folks saw them because of the shade, and there was a run. Everyone wanted umbrellas, and we ran out of those pretty quickly. You can also see the numbers for alternate transportation. I think it says something like 46 and 76 bicycles, but those are just from the check-ins. But if you go to the next slide, you see the bikes. There were a total of 286 bikes. And I was not here for prior air shows, but from talking to people, there were more bikes ridden to this air show than any time in the past. And I think that was through the marketing and the advertising, and particularly pushing the band Wango. We did emails, we did text messages the night before saying, hey, what kind of transportation are you using tomorrow? And, TART Connect, ride a bike. So really good, and thanks to the Trails Foundation for running the bike corral. Next slide. This here shows the mobile pass check-ins. If you go to the 12 o'clock position, the highest was the water bottles. So it was 161 check-ins by entering the PIN code at the water bottle. You work your way around. TART Connect was the lowest at 54 in terms of check-ins. I listed the sponsors. I did not list everyone. There's a color code to all of it. Everything it seemed like 150, 140-ish, but those were all the sponsors or folks that donated something to the air show. If we were to use the mobile pass again, I think if we started earlier and talked more about the gamification, we'd have better participation. A lot of people that downloaded the mobile pass thought it was just a mobile pass, and we were really pushing the gamification. I think some of the younger folks caught on real quick, but a lot of folks like, what do you mean there's this check-in? So it was marketed as a mobile pass, not gamification. So I think that's why some of these check-ins were a little bit lower than we thought. Even so, I think it shows too, based on where you were on the airfield, it starts to give you a sense of where the humanity was flying around on the day of the air show. Next slide. With that, in the emails we sent out, a survey, we sent out both an email and a text message to do a Survey Monkey that went out to the 2,200 pass holders or the downloads. Of that, 205 took the survey and 147 provided comments. I'm going to have to look at this on my screen. You can see very positive comments in general. I don't want to say take that with a grain of salt. Clearly, we asked people that came to an air show, did you like the air show? The over, 92% would come to the air show again. Looking at the bottom right, the lowest in terms of remarks were in terms of the gamification, and I think there were just some folks that didn't understand what we're trying to do with it. In general, the comments, then they're on the page. You have to look in the smaller print, but we're all very, very positive. We also got some good comments for future air shows about additional seating. Could you provide more shade? Some comments about food options, and a number of people saying that they had some issues figuring out the pass or too many button pushes. But in general, we gained, I think, a lot of good information and some data on where people lived that attended, and another way of finding out how many people showed up beyond the car counts. So are there any questions about the mobile pass data that we tried to mine as best we could?
Any questions?
No.
Hopefully everyone enjoyed it. So, all right.
It was great. It's great to have that data.
All right.
We've never really had that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So that's AVCOM. There's also a couple in the report, a couple thank you notes from some organizations.
Okay, is there any public comment on the aviation report? Anybody? David, did you have any comments?
Nope, I'm good, thanks, Karen.
Okay. Oh, Mike?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what I said once before, which is that there is your 12,000 or so, they're not all locals, of course, but that's your community of people who want to be served by the airport. And there's a heck of a lot of them. And I know that you are obliged by the text of what you're told to do, obliged to also take account of the dozen or so people who complain about noise, and I'm in favor of being sympathetic to them. But note absolutely that 99.9% of your community is people who love the airport and who want to have, who want to be participating in aeronautical activities by the airport being here. So that's my comment. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Quick question. How many noise complaints did we have?
I think we had David Van Quest's online. I think we had 5 noise complaints. I think 3 before the air show during the practice, and 2 on the day of. DVQ. Do you know the numbers?
Yeah, you're talking about directly about the air show?
Yep.
I think, yeah, you had it pretty right. Something like that, 5 or 6. There were a couple from the practice days, and then a lot of, well, 3 or 4 were from the F-18 taking off on Sunday. There were a couple just general comments as well, just let's not have an air show. Those were counted towards, air show comments.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Finance and administration report. Kelly, are there any highlights? Or any questions for Kelly?
Any questions?
Any questions? It's pretty straightforward.
I can give you a couple of housekeeping items listed here. It's actually up higher, I think, but I wanted to talk briefly about options for the budget workshop. We'd like to push it forward. There was a staff report in there. I just want to make sure that worked for everyone. The dates are listed. I try to just keep it to the days of the board meetings, since that would be the easiest, I think, for us all to get together. So if that works for you, we can push to September 27th for our workshop at, I think, 1:30, same timing.
Great.
Okay.
Works for me, yeah.
We can.
Or should we all just say that's great?
Yeah, there was no survey, but does anybody have a problem with having a
Will
morning?
you be, is everyone going to be at that board meeting that day anyway?
I am.
So it should
September?
hopefully work.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can cross the August 22nd
Oh, sorry. I didn't see
off. Off of.
Never mind, you already agreed.
Good
to it.
reinforcement. It was on consent, the new date, so we assume that you all consented to the new dates.
Yes, yes.
But thanks for asking it again, Kelly.
Yeah.
Just checking.
Okay, just making sure that works for everybody.
And then the other item, there was a staff report about the hangar lease CPI timeline. We'd like to push that to January. You've read the staff report. We're trying to roll that out with the Go Civics launch, talking with a hangar revitalization policy, the new plan for that, so that we're trying to get everything in alignment with the budget so that it kind of lines up with, yes, we know we're going to do a CPI on 1/1, so we'll come to you October with what the month prior's CPI index is, and then we can prove it then, push it forward. We have 30 days to give notice to the tenants, so we want to make sure we have enough time to do that, and then roll it out on 1/1 is the plan, to get everything more in alignment with our budget process, which is now fiscal year, where in the past it ended in September. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you may have passed me by. I have a question on the net pension liabilities at $3,051,000. We keep putting $500,000 into there. It doesn't seem to go down. Is that because CalPERS had a bad year in the stock market?
Not really. No, the adjustment comes at the end of the year every year in December. So each year you'll see the change happening then. And we are still putting that ADP down, the 500,000. But yes, it was not a great year for CalPERS.
Yeah, or anybody else, but we get charged like 7% on this unfunded liability, and you look at what we're earning on our money. I'm a little concerned about the negative arbitrage.
We'll build that into our budget process for this next year and talk about it.
Talk about
in September.
budget.
Okay, you'll hear from me on the budget.
Let's make a plan. Any other questions on the quarterly financials?
Anybody else? David?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, is there public comment on the financials? No. Okay, future agenda priorities and meeting management. So we all got the calendar of the upcoming meetings and the rolling agenda. Were there any conferences this time? Anybody go to conferences? Okay, meeting review and direction to staff.
One item on the previous topic, just planning for the future, and maybe we could send this out separately, Lauren, but there might be consensus or a desire of the board to schedule a board meeting after our land use inspection with the FAA.
Right, okay.
So that would be the day after the board meeting, the normal board meeting, it's that day and the next day. But if the board's available, it would be great if we can line up having that out brief or briefing, or just worst case is staff summary of the findings. If we have them, then it might be useful if the board is interested in that. That would be, that's not on the rolling agenda. That's a one-off, probably special meeting. But if there's consensus now, I'll ask Lauren to work to schedule that for August.
Do you think we ought to have that?
I think it would be useful. I think it would be good for us all to have that conversation.
On the 24th?
The next day, I believe.
24th.
24th, Thursday? Okay, thank you. If that works.
I think that's a good idea, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. As far as summary of meeting agenda items, we did move 2 items to next month. That is the Fly Quiet and Safety Program and hangar revitalization. So we'll be bringing that back next month, ideally with the feedback from the FPPC, so we can have all 5 directors participate in that conversation. In the meantime, we are working on rollout plans for those conversations with our community, our airport community here. Also, we have some feedback captured by Agnew Beck and our team from discussion of our strategic plan. So I'll be working on adjusting several of the elements of that with the feedback that we had here today, and turn that around and have that back to the board as a new draft, updated red line draft, hopefully in the coming weeks ahead of the board meeting, so we can have a feedback. Happy to meet with the directors once we have that back to you. And if there's any additional feedback, we can hopefully address that so we have a final product at the next regular board meeting. And that was it, unless there's another
right.
note that I'm missing. Yeah.
Great. Are there any board member announcements?
I had said that I was going to miss the August meeting. I will try to rearrange so that I can make it.
Okay.
Because everything's getting pushed.
Yeah, yeah.
The 23rd, I was thinking I would miss. I will try my best to be here. I will be available the 24th for sure, but the 23rd was a day that I would. But everything's gotten pushed onto it, and we pushed everything else, so
Yeah, I know.
I will
Sorry
try
about
to
that.
rearrange.
Okay, thank you. I would just say that for the next 20 minutes, if you live in Nevada County and you support your current supervisor, you can go to 50/50 and show your support. And that's it.
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Hetherington,
Yes.
Director Odette,
Yes.
Director Stevens,
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned 6:41.